Hi everyone, so we're back at Recipe for Adventure. We're on chapter 6, and they just met their friend Marco, and they're trying to find all the ingredients for the pizza. They all climbed aboard a bus, which Marco said would take them to the hills above town where they would find their next ingredient. Marco paid for their bus fare. "It's the least I could do since you're helping me," he said. Alfie noticed Marco looking over his shoulder once again. They walked down the aisle to take their seats. Alfie looked out the back and saw the boy from the market racing to catch the bus. "Look," he said, "I think I saw him at the market. Do you know him?" Marco scowled and sat in the seat. Amelia sat in front of him by the window, and Alfie sat next to her. "Yes, unfortunately," Marco said. "That's Enzo. His family owns a restaurant that they think is better than ours." "What a joke. They're the ones who beat us last year in the Festa de Pizza. But we think it's because they spied on us and learned where we got our ingredients. That's why we're making this special trip to the farm." "But if you use the same ingredients from the same places, wouldn't the pizzas taste exactly the same?" Amelia asked. "Every pizza is different," Marco said. "My Nana used to always say, it's how you feel when you make it that matters too. And last year Papa spotted Enzo buying his mozzarella from Giuseppe at the market, and that's how he knew they were just following us around. He was so angry when he made the pizza that the judges said the crust was too tough." "What an insult," he said. "This year you'll taste how light our dough is, crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. Total perfection made without care in the world." The bus stopped suddenly, and they all watched as Enzo himself boarded the bus, panting from running. "Oh, great," Marco muttered as Enzo passed them and found a seat a few rows back. As the bus moved again, Marco turned to him and said, "Can't you find the markets on your own?" Enzo shrugged like it was no big deal. It's a free country. It's a free country. I can take the bus anywhere I want." Marco turned back around. "Incredible," he said, shaking his head. Enzo will do anything to get what he wants. He just uses people." "What a jerk," Alfie said. Alfie didn't get involved in his parents' business and could hardly imagine caring so much about it that he'd want to hurt another family. Amelia looked back at Enzo, who pretended to gaze casually out the window but kept shooting glances in the other direction. "Are you crazy?" her brother said. He already felt a sense of allegiance to Marcos. After all, he had selflessly helped them today, no questions asked. He looked shady. "I promise he is," Marco said. "We'll have to ditch him at the next stop, okay?" "You got it," Alfie said. "When I say run, I mean run," Marco said to Alfie and Amelia. "Run!" "We got it," Alfie said, but Marco was getting up. "No, I mean run!" Alfie had been so busy shooting dirty looks at Enzo that he hadn't noticed the bus slowed down for the next stop. The doors were about to close and Marco was already halfway out. Alfie scrambled up and followed him, making it out just before the doors closed. Close call. "Thank goodness," Marco said when the bus pulled away. "We lost him." Alfie never knew something as simple as making pizza could become such an adventure, not to mention so cutthroat. But he guessed if you were going to be competitive about a particular food, pizza might as well be the one. It was, after all, the best food in the whole world. "Come on," Marco said, turning on the gravel road. "We can walk the rest of the way. It's not that far." It wasn't until Alfie turned to make sure Amelia was okay with walking that he realized something he probably should have noticed before the bus pulled away. "Amelia!" he said, his voice on the verge of cracking. Alfie watched helplessly as the bus drove off in a cloud of dust. Amelia was still on the bus and getting further and further away from him. "Amelia!" Alfie yelled as he frantically ran after the bus, pumping his arms and moving his legs as fast as they could go. It didn't take long to see that it was useless. He'd never catch up. His sister was gone forever. Marco caught up with Alfie, and they both stood on the side of the road, trying to catch their breaths. "What am I going to do?" Alfie said, panting. His heart raced, and not just from the sprint. "My sister, she's gone!" Alfie couldn't believe what was happening. He thought he'd been good about keeping Amelia close, but it wasn't good enough. She must be so scared, alone on the bus in a foreign country, and they didn't even know how they were here in the first place. If he ever got her back, Alfie was sure Amelia was going to kill him for this. Marco, what are we going to do? Alfie said, grabbing Marco by the shirt and practically shaking him. Okay, we'll figure it out, friend, Marco said. He put his hand on Alfie's shoulder. We gotta get her, Alfie said. We gotta find her. Alfie couldn't think beyond this thought. He was so scared for his sister. What if something happened to her? He'd never forgive himself. Maybe she got off at the next stop, hoping we'd meet her there, Marco said. Let's run there and see. It seemed like a logical plan, even in Alfie's frantic mind. Marco led the way, the two boys running down the road faster than Alfie had ever run in gym class, until they got to the next bus stop. Amelia wasn't there. Both boys were panting, and Marco leaned on his knees to catch his breath. One more stop, Alfie said, and Marco nodded. They took off again, running further and faster than Alfie had ever run in his entire life. Amelia might be older and might think she was wiser, but Alfie knew his sister must be scared. He hated to think of her feeling like he had left her, like he wasn't taking care of her. At the next stop, they found the same thing. Nothing. Alfie was on the verge of panicking, but he knew he had to try his best to stay calm and come up with a plan. Maybe she got on a bus going back to town, Alfie said, but he didn't believe it. They hadn't seen a bus going the other way. Maybe she's going back to the restaurant, since that's where we started. Do you think she could find it again? Marco asked. No, Alfie said. He worked hard to pay attention to where they were and where they went as they followed Marco to the market. But Alfie knew Amelia had just been taking in the sights. She'd never find the restaurant again. Still, where else might she be going? But maybe I should go back down there. Anyway, just in case she finds her way. The bus back to town doesn't come for a little while longer, Marco said. Then I'll run down, Alfie said. I know the way. How about this, Marco said. Let's go to the mozzarella farm and we'll use their phone to call the restaurant. We'll see if she's there and tell them to look out for her just in case. Alfie considered Marco's plan. Even though he didn't like the idea of getting further away from his sister, he knew it was a better idea than trying to run all the way down to town, which would take longer than going to make the phone call. Okay, he said, but as soon as we call and get the cheese, we're going straight back to Naples. Agreed? Yes, of course, Marco said. They walked up the hill and past scraggly bushes, the small farm selling olives, herbs, and other Italian goodies. When they got to the farm, Marco was warmly greeted by a slim and sun-browned young man who shook his hand and patted his back. Marco, great to see you, he said. Hello, Vito, Marco said. How are things? Great, Vito said. Been busy. We've got lots of great... Excuse me, can I use your phone, please? Alfie said. He knew he was being rude, but at that moment he didn't care. He didn't care about cheese or being polite. He only cared about his sister Amelia. This is my friend Alfredo, Marco said. He's helping me with the ingredients, but we are having a bit of an emergency. Okay if we use your phone? Sure, of course, Vito said, leading them to a squat wooden building that turned out to be the office. Help yourself. Alfie snatched the phone off the receiver, but he quickly realized he didn't know the restaurant's phone number or even how to dial it. Maybe phone numbers were different here in Italy. He held the phone out to Marco and said, I guess you should call? Thanks, Marco said. The call to the restaurant was brief. When Marco hung up the phone, no sign of her. Alfie's stomach dropped. I told them to keep an eye out for her, and they promised they would. I know it's hard, Marco said, but try not to worry. I'm sure she's okay. We'll find her. I hope you're right, Alfie said glumly. Let's just get the cheese and get back to town. Vito led them to a larger section of the farm. I'm so glad to hear about you and your father's family, he said. What do you mean? Marcos asked. Enzo was here, Vito said, and Alfie was pretty sure that his and Marco's hearts both stopped beating. He said he was buying for his restaurant and yours. He told me to play some game of not selling it to you, but I don't have time for that. He was here? Marcos asked. Sure, Vito said. You just missed him. Him and some girl. Said she was his cousin from out of town, which I guess is why she was a bit nervous. He said she'd never left her village before. Did he say where they were going next? Alfie asked, his poor sister being held as a hostage by Enzo. Back to the restaurant, I guess, Vito said. They were trying to catch the next bus down. Let's go, Alfie said, turning to run out the door. Wait, Marco said. I'm sorry. Let's just get the cheese very fast. I must. But my sister, Alfie said. 2 seconds. And besides, Marco said, the bus probably hasn't come yet, so they'll still be waiting. I promise we'll hurry. Right, Vito? You bet, Vito said casually, not moving any more quickly. This is the best mozzarella di bufala you'll ever taste, he said, as he led the boys into a large room filled with vats of water. Some steaming, some not, but all a little cloudy white with what appeared to be raw pizza dough floating in it. Why do you call it that? Alfie asked, a bit agitated. Why not just call it mozzarella? And why couldn't they leave now? This cheese isn't just plain old mozzarella, Marcos explained. It's not from cow's milk, but from the buffalo's milk. That's one reason why it's so special and why it's mozzarella di bufala. Several workers stood before a trough of cloudy water, scooping up white chunks of mozzarella di bufala, which they then carefully formed into balls the size of softballs. Then they dropped each ball into another trough of water. That's the cold water, Marcos explained. Alfie watched with mild interest. Amelia was on his mind, of course, but standing there he realized that the only way he'd ever seen mozzarella was shredded in a bag at the grocery store. He never knew it first swam in water, and he'd never heard of anything being made from buffalo's milk. Marco, I've got yours over here, Vito said. He showed him several finished balls of mozzarella. Finished last night, so the morning they are perfect and fresh. Thank you, Vito, Marcos said, inspecting each one. My family can always count on you. You'll get your title back this year. We all know you will, Vito said. Marcos stood up a bit straighter and said, We will. You can be sure. Marcos chose what he had decided was the perfect ball of mozzarella di bufala, and Vito congratulated him on a strong choice. Tell your father I said he better show up to our next game of bocce, Vito said to Marcos, as Alfie pulled him out the door. He promised he... Alfie and Marco barely heard the rest as they raced back down the hill to find Amelia and Enzo. All right, hopefully they find them. I wonder what's the deal with the family. I don't know. All right, stay tuned.